Just remember, I'm next in line.
Ready?
All right, oh.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Good job, Hope.
Please
Good
remain
job.
standing. Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage. Grant us the wisdom to make our every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. And I kindly ask everyone to please wish Ann Capisi, our court clerk, a speedy recovery.
And actually, while we're wishing speedy recoveries, may we also wish Dave Thomas, who was in that hospital this week, and fortunately back at home, we wish him a speedy recovery as well. Amen. Okay. Hope,
Yes.
call the order.
Oh, man, we're not
Call the
gonna
roll
hear
and bring
it.
the order, meeting to order.
The meeting for April 21st, 2015 is now called to order. Councilpersons Collins? Here. Nardi?
Here.
Nioras?
Here.
Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Carvin.
Yes. Okay, we've got a packed agenda this evening, so we'll try and get right to it. We've got a couple of gentlemen from O'Connor Davies ready to present it. I promised them they'd be up first on the 2014 audit, so long as they give us good news. And as they present it, I do want to thank our finance team, Town Accountant Terenzi, Town Controller Burns, and with the help of Mr. Nowotnik to get this done on time. You know, this is April. There are very few municipalities that get it done. Audited financials on an on-time base like this. I want to thank the team for the hard work. And of course, I want to thank our friends from O'Connor Davies as well. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Not too many people come here with their own fans.
No,
Yeah.
apparently.
Congratulations.
Yes. You will find out that that's my sister-in-law.
There you go.
So I'm going to do my best. My name is Scott Oling. I'm one of the partners in the government group at O'Connor Davies. I'm actually pinch hitting for one of my other partners who couldn't make it here tonight, who's actually in charge of your audit. I'm also here tonight with Jeff Shaver, who is the senior manager in charge of the audit. So I'm going to have him do most of the talking and going through the numbers with you. I just wanted to introduce the report. You have a copy of it now, of the December 31st, 2014 town audit report. And even though we prepared this entire booklet on behalf of the town, really the only part that belongs to us as the auditor is right after the table of contents, which is the auditor's opinion. And basically, we've issued what's known as an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements for December 14, meaning that we believe that the numbers that we're about to show you fairly present your results of operations for the year ended December 14.
I'm going to ask you to pause there for 1 second.
All right.
Because this is a good question for the people at home and here. First question. Now, a clean opinion is those people who operate in finances is absolutely important. You can't list your company. Your company will be delisted if you don't get a clean opinion from your auditors. Basically say that you fairly presented your financial statements. First question, bonus question. When was the last time the U.S. federal government's internal accountants published a clean opinion? The GAO. Does anybody know?
Never.
Well, they did back in Jefferson's. No, they haven't done it for over 15 years. You're absolutely right. 15 years. The U.S. federal government has not issued a clean opinion. And as Mr. Olin will tell you, they don't even, that's the internal accountant. They said maybe in 2017. So we have no idea, zero, none nada, how much money the U.S. federal government is spending. In 2017, the U.S. military said maybe they'll figure it out. Second question is, does the U.S. federal government even attempt to publish financial statements? The answer, Mr. Olin? No.
As far as I know, no.
No. It's extraordinary that the world's premier superpower does not even endeavor or attempt to produce audited financial statements. That's an extraordinary statement. Finally, and I'll let up. Obviously, you can see this is my congressional campaign, and I'm itching to run for Congress again. But basically, the U.S. federal government has run far worse than the town of Rye when this board took over 8 years ago. Far worse. No bid contracts, no financial statements. And they use cash accounting, which means that they hide $211 trillion in liabilities. Now, George Soros's one of his famous partners is making the circuit now using this number, $211 trillion. Stan Druckenmiller, one of the best fund managers ever to live, he's a billionaire. And Stan Druckenmiller, if you Google him and look it up, you'll see he's using Professor Larry Kolikoff's financial numbers, and Druckenmiller's basically saying we're bankrupt, and he's trying to get college-age university students to pay attention because we're stealing their future. Sorry for the monologue, but I thought since you explained the audit, you gave me the clean opinion. I had to.
I have to say, I've been doing this for 28 years, and nobody has equated their municipality to the federal government. So this is definitely a first for me.
Welcome to the town of Rock.
But yes, your financial statements are a little more transparent than the federal government, and I think you will see that you're in slightly better shape than our federal brethren. So basically, the town of Rye is a little unique as compared to other towns within Westchester County, in that some of the stuff that you handle for others is bigger than your entity itself, and Jeff is going to talk about that. And what I'm referring to is like the collection of the property taxes that you do for all the surrounding, the villages and the county and the other entities. Your tax levy is a very, very tiny portion of that overall bigger pie of the school taxes, village taxes, county taxes that you have to collect for those entities. So basically, the town itself really just has two funds. You have a capital fund and you have a general fund. And we're just going to focus our few minutes here on the general fund to kind of tell you what happened this year financially for the town. I'll have Jeff take you through some of that detail, and then I will chime in where appropriate.
Thanks, Scott. I'm on page 31 and 32. This is general fund, comparative schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Budget to actual. On the left page, we have 2004 results. On the right page, we have 2013 results. You'll see this is a 4-column presentation. It starts with your original budget as adopted by the board. The final budget includes any amendments made during the year. The third column is your actual results for the year. And the fourth column is the variance between the final budget and the actual results for the year. Total revenues were initially budgeted at $2.735 million. The final budget was unchanged. Actual revenues for the year were $2.754 million. That's a positive budget variance of $19,000. Just to talk about a few of the items that got us to that variance. Real property taxes had a positive variance of approximately $69,000, and that was mostly due to exemptions that were canceled and the revenues collected throughout the year, but it's not included in the original budget. Fines and forfeitures, your town court fees, were less than the budget by approximately $41,000. State aid was less than the budget by approximately $83,000. That is per capita aid from the state and also mortgage tax revenues. Miscellaneous revenue was greater than the budget by $108,000. That was mostly due to a reimbursement for legal costs that the town fought on behalf of other municipalities. Moving on to the expenditure side. The original budget was $2.935 million. Final budget was unchanged. Actual expenditures were $2.959 for a negative variance of $24,000.
$204,000.
$24,000.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
The largest variance there is in general government support of $122,000, and there is one item in there that I'd like to try and explain further. There's one item unbudgeted for $261,000 called guarantee of school and village taxes. As Scott mentioned before, the town is collecting the taxes for the schools and the villages, which happens to be much greater than the levy of the town. And because you have to guarantee them those taxes, and the town actually took ownership of certain properties, that's the amount of the taxes that you took ownership over during 2014. So it's a new item because it doesn't happen every year, and hopefully it will reverse itself when you sell those properties, and it'll replenish the fund balance of the town and reverse itself.
Right.
This, well, we talked a little bit about this before tonight, but I'm still not clear why we have this for the first time this year. I mean, Dave Burns, we look at our receivables, right, every year, every month, and you give us an update. Isn't this the first time we've actually expensed this item?
This is the first time, but the increment,
You just go to the,
because we took possession of so many in-rem properties and the increment was so large this year, this is the first time that we recognize the receivables as an expenditure. So it was about $261,000 just for 2014.
we've never done that in the past, though. that I
No, the
remember.
previous in-rem as of 2013 was about $109,000 that was on the books, but since it was so big in 2014, and of the $370,000 total in-rem, the assessed value is about $2.2 million on those properties.
So that's the other thing we spoke about earlier today. So next year, that will reverse out very positively if we sell those properties for, well, in excess of $261,000, we'll reflect the gain next year, correct? So we stand to gain, when we budget in the fall, Bishop, and Dave, we should think about this, remember this, because it very likely will reverse itself. In fact, Mr. Nutter, we probably should have those properties sold by the fall, right? Or in fact, some of them that recently sold, I think.
We sold one. Which property was the other one?
Well, I don't know which
18,
ones.
I'm not quite there yet with 18 Prospect. I'm not quite there yet with 18 Prospect. We did sell Union, and we got back Bowman, which we sold
Right.
income taxes. I think this year we're going to end up taking one house in Rybrook.
Right. So presumably, well, 2.2 million in value, we'll realize, certainly 40 cents on the dollar. But I apologize. The other question, just want to, on the real property taxes, again, you guys account for this differently than we did in the past. I just first and foremost want to be clear, we didn't increase our taxes. If you look at the line, we've never increased taxes. That's the other thing. Welcome to the town of Rye. We've only reduced taxes every year we've been in office. But the $370,000, can you break that out between the taxes collected and tell us what the other item is there?
The taxes collected, or the revenue recognized from the tax levy, is equal to the budget, $300,659.
Okay.
There's another item in there, exemptions canceled.
Could you explain that to us?
So, as people lose their exemptions throughout the year, the assessor will bill them during the year for the value of that exemption that they shouldn't have had all year, and that is revenue to the town.
So that's like if a senior owned a house and had a senior, exemption on the house, and then they sold the house to me, and I'm not a senior yet, the taxes that were originally assessed on that house were based on a lower, exempted assessed valuation.
Gotcha.
Now I take it over, I got to make up the difference because I should have paid the full.
Okay,
tax
interesting.
levy
You
on
take
the
that
house.
into real property taxes.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. Can we break that out as a separate line item next year? Because
We thought about that and didn't think it was.
we'd like to do it because we're very careful about how we tax.
It's something we could do. It wouldn't be on this particular page. It would be on page 33 where we go into more detail
Right.
of these numbers. This is a roll-up of those numbers. But yes, it's something that, we could talk about when we do next year.
Thank you.
And my one quick question is, as we were talking about it, the $261,000, that guarantee of taxes.
Yes.
That is solely just the tax picture on those specific properties.
Yes. The unpaid, the value
The
of the
unpaid
taxes.
taxes.
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason, we kind of had a choice. We showed it in the expenditure section under that general government support, so it's part of that $1.9 million expense figure. In a lot of places, we end up putting that sometimes against the actual real property tax revenue on the revenue side. But because your tax levy is so low, because it's not a big, town.
Right.
If we put 260 against this tax levy that we were showing $370,000, we'd only have showed $110,000 of real property tax revenue, which
Right.
we didn't feel was a proper presentation.
And it's right, I was just going to say, it's not a real picture of
Right.
what the town is.
Right,
Thank
so
you.
that's why we showed it in that manner.
Thank you.
So that was general government support, and the main reason why the expenditures were in excess of the budget. The next major variance was in the employee benefit category. The original budget was $650,000, unchanged to the final budget. Actual expenditures were $553,000, and that's a $97,000 positive budget variance.
Now,
And
Why? We let go a number of employees. Is that the reason, or did the?
the state overestimated the bill in
Right.
the prior fiscal year.
Our
and then
bill?
Yes. And
Our
they
specific bill?
Yes, and they show a reconciliation the following year, so you had a big credit on your bill. So your bill in 14 showed that credit, and it reduces the expense in 2014.
Yes, that's related to the drop in employees in the prior year.
So they didn't pick up the fact that we reduced the number of employees.
Right.
The state's always constantly estimating their bills based on what they think your salaries are going to be. It doesn't always match up with what your actual salaries are.
I got you.
So
Okay.
each year you pay an estimated bill
I see.
for that year, and then the following year, once they have all your salaries tallied, they issue either an additional credit to
So
you
going
or
forward, should we,
additional charge.
going forward, should we expect this lower rate?
No,
That's a one-time credit.
one-time credit.
So now if your salary is consistent from year to year, now that if you've had this workforce reduction and now you're at this new level, that's going to now be the new salary, so now that's what they should be charging you.
Well, then,
Yes,
I would have thought then it stays at the lower level. no?
the estimated bill is approximately $80,000 less for the payment we make in December. So they finally picked it up. Their year runs till March 31st. So although we close out, what happens is they're still collecting salary information through the end of March.
Right, I mean, so quite simply, if we're budgeting conservatively, Mr. Burns we would come down to this line, I guess come fall, if our actual is 553, we budgeted 650, and we know we're going to be a little conservative, workforce is going to be the same. If we were at 575, it's more of a responsible budget, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, remember that the 650 that you're seeing on page 31 is not just the retirement expense. It's health insurance, workers' comp, all those. That's a conglomeration of a bunch
Well, that's
of
my
fringe
question.
benefits.
So how much of that's owed to us and how much that's owed to, how much of that's a result of our, cost cutting, and how much is a result of the government having made money on its pension last year?
Well, it's about $80,000. I mean, that's what I see in terms of the estimated bill that we've been provided for next year.
Okay.
And remember, in the last year or two, because, the stock market's done well
Right.
the last 5 years, and they base the rates on a 5-year
Yep.
Right.
rolling average, you'll see that the rates on the ERS and PFRS bills, well, for you, the ERS bill, would come down, has been down about 10% from where they were 2 years ago, approximately. And
Great.
hopefully it's trending, further downward.
Thank you.
So the budget variance on the retirements was actually $51,000. The actual expenditures were $113,000. The budget was $165,000. You also had a positive budget variance on your medical insurance of about $26,000 and unemployment benefits of approximately $29,000. Other than that, you have debt service, serial bond principal payments of $130,000, used to pay down the town's debt during 2014, and interest on those serial bonds of $20,000, and interest on a bond anticipation note of $31,911. Also, you'll see in the other financing uses, we call it transfers out, because the capital fund is where the bond anticipation note is accounted for. So the principal amount gets transferred to that fund. That's $93,000, and that's within that transfer out of $773,000. The remainder of that $773,000 is essentially relocation costs. When the town sold its town hall and moved to Village Hall, it did incur costs to renovate that portion of the building, and that's what those costs represent. One line above that, I know I skipped around a little bit. Sale of property, the budget was $1.5 million. Actual revenues were $1.813 million. That was the net proceeds from the sale of Town Hall. Netting all those items together, you get a net income of $835,000. You actually anticipated adding back $775,000 to fund balance in your budget because of the sale of this building. So there was a net positive budget variance of $60,000. Taking the $835,000 in actual net income, adding it to the beginning of year fund balance of $2,556,000 brings you to ending fund balance, total ending fund balance of $3,391,000.
I want to take a second, on that $835,000. So for the year, your revenues exceeded your spending by $835,000. The sale of the building, net of the relocation costs that you incurred, okay, was about $950,000. That was what you netted when you put all that together. So if you take that $950 and it says that we made $835,000 on the bottom line, really, from the rest of your operations, you actually were down about $110,000. But remember, also, the number we talked about before is we picked up that $260,000 charge for the taxes. So you kind of have to take the $835. If I was just looking at this, I would back out the $950,000 net sale because that's not a recurring item. So you were down 110, but then we booked that 260. So in reality, you were actually up about $150,000 when you put it all together. The bottom line is, yes, for this year, you're showing $800,000. But just from your day-to-day operations, forgetting acquiring taking those taxes, which hopefully, as you said, this year, you'll be able to, bring back in when you sell those properties and you take those proceeds in. That will also replenish your fund balance.
Well, exactly, and what's interesting here is if we go to page 35, and we have operation of the building, so that's basically Pearl Street, correct, Bishop? $88,000, so it costs us $88,000, so I see it, Bishop, to run Pearl Street. Now, what's our new rental agreement? 88 on page 35, right? So that's what it used to cost us to simply run Pearl Street, and our rental agreement is $67,500?
$67,500.
$67,500. So just going back, remember last couple of years we've been doing asset sales. So we've been able to sell the building, avoid $2 million capital expenditure, generate $1.8 million in income, and operate out of our building, a newer building, a more modern building. Denise, I know you like the new office. I know hopefully we're still upgrading yours. And Honorable Mr. Mecca for $20,000 less. And that doesn't count the interest income, going on the taxes and all that. But all that rationale is just to confirm it right here with the operation of the building, $88,000. We're actually renting for less. In a better, we would argue, most of us argue, in a better locale. Let me ask this top and see if there's any questions from the board on the financials.
No, I mean, obviously, we're just seeing this document tonight.
Right.
I'm sure there may be some questions, but so far, I appreciate the explanation that we're receiving tonight from our auditors.
And the one thing I want, the fund balance.
Yeah, we were going to
If you just talk us through that. I know we have a charge schedule, so I might just take you to that and anything else that you think is fundamentally important.
Yeah, so the bottom line for the year is
What page is the fund balance?
$800,000. You're going to go to page 30.
30.
And you did add $800,000 and change to your fund balance to bring your total fund balance at the end of December to $3.4 million. And Jeff will take you through how we get to that $3.4 million.
Perfect.
Non-spendable fund balance is $1,180,000. The largest component is related to, again, the taxes receivable.
Right.
Because most of the taxes receivable are for the town and the schools, and you have to make them whole for those taxes.
Sure.
We reserve a portion of your fund balance to say
Yep.
you don't have the cash.
Right.
So most of that 1.2 million relates to that.
Right.
Now, the difference between that and the $256,000 that we talked about before, both of those items reduce your unassigned fund balance. However, the 256 we actually showed as an expense.
Right.
Here, we're just reserving a component of fund balance.
261, I think it was.
I'm sorry, whatever the 200, whatever the number was.
Yep. Yep. No, I think
So
that's
there's-
absolutely correct.
There's a small distinction there, but either way, you don't have that cash on hand because it's tied up in your
I understand.
receivables, and that fund balance is not
And
available
just,
for
just
spending.
again, just so everybody's clear at home, that 1.2 million, don't you worry with Town Attorney Noto, as zealous and rigorous as he is, our collection rate is well over 150%. So ultimately, and actually, as long as we're looking at it, if you look at our revenues, the way we've offset the 40% decline, we're getting $870,000. That's basically that penalty interest that we're generating off of those in-rem properties. So that's how we've been able to replace the revenues. And then the $2 million is basically unassigned. That's cash, correct? That's rainy day cash. It's money that we have available that's unencumbered, unassigned bill. You remember we were
Undesignated.
undesignated. We looked at this a
what
lot
it
in the previous administration.
Yeah, the only other thing to note on here, this year also, you see a $170,000 figure. That's the money that you use to balance the 2015 budget. So when you adopted the 2015 budget, you adopted a budget where your spending plan exceeded your anticipated revenues, including property taxes, by $170,000. And you said, well, we have this bank account, a fund balance, we are going to take some of it as a plan, in our 2015 year. So what you would have to do in 2015, in order to not dip into the fund balance and reduce it, is you would have to either come in where revenues come in better than you budgeted, or your spending comes in less than you budgeted.
No,
that would replenish some of that 170.
Well,
Otherwise,
we
a
don't
year from
nec-
now it would be down.
But we don't necessarily need to, having the fund balance that we do, given our budget, we don't necessarily need to replenish that 170.
That is
For
correct.
the most part, whatever we can do, managing the town as best we can, for every dollar we spend appropriately or don't spend appropriately, is another dollar that we're not asking from the taxpayers.
Correct.
So having a fund balance is good, right? And you would attest to that.
Yes.
Having a fund balance in excess may not be as good because that excess comes on the back of the taxpayers.
Correct.
Okay.
But also understand that, over time,
Right.
if you do deplete the fund balance, each year, let's say it went down 170 and you did that for a bunch of years, well, eventually your fund balance would be out. What would that mean? At one point, you would not be able to use 170, and given that your tax levy is only $300,000, you would be looking in that 1 year potentially at a 50 or 60% tax increase to make up for that 170. So even though the 170 is a small percentage of your fund balance, which is a good thing,
Right.
it's a high percentage of your actual tax levy.
Understood.
So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions for Scott or Jeff? Nope.
No, I think it's a very well-prepared report and easy to take in.
It really is. It's very, very helpful. Thank you so much for your hard work. Thanks for the on time. We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming here tonight.
Should I stick around and listen to Hope's?
Well, I think you should, because I see Hope also with your daughter there, Hope, and, it is a school night, so I think we're going to catapult you.
Okay.
If the board agrees, we'll have Hope come up next, and I think she's here to talk about
Sounds great.
the American Legion? No.
Fourth of July, I think. Yeah.
I'm joking.
No.
Hope, you want to go ahead and come up and make your pitch?
I'm going to listen to you.
You
Yeah.
are.
Oh, my God. Look at that. There you go.
Good evening, our hardworking friends. I'm so glad that the budget's going well. We are here to request money for our 68th consecutive July 4th, Portchester, Rybrook, still Town of Rye, all three names, fireworks, which will happen July 4th, 2015, at the Ryan Stadium. Last year, you were very generous, and you gave us a bump up, so I would like to ask for at least that much, if not more. Wow. So when I start singing, "You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag," sound really good now.
Where's Mr. Milwaukee? There you go.
Come on up.
There you, come on up, let's do this.
Anyway, it was a real pleasure to go and thank Mr. Pagano for all of his hard work. His father started the committee 68 years ago.
Wow.
And we were at that meeting to be able to thank him for his work for the village of Portchester. Would you like to give
I
him a
think
little
we have, oh,
little
please.
song? No? Well, she'll definitely be singing. Last year was the song of the
Excellent.
year, Frozen.
Oh,
Little-
right.
Let it go.
No?
That's okay. We'll be ready on July 4th. Anyway, we've asked for an increase, but we'll,
I think we had a specific amount budgeted. I don't see
That's
Bishop.
awesome.
I thought what did we give last year, 1,500?
2,000.
We gave 2,000 last year.
Yes.
Well,
I'd like to make a motion that we give 2,000 again.
I'd like to second that motion.
second that motion? Okay, Hope, call the roll.
Oh, the other hope.
Tell you.
Yes.
Two hopes.
Yes.
Nioras?
Yes.
Villanova?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
And
you,
we
Hope.
that-
Thanks for coming.
And we
Thank
hope
you.
that one of the representatives will come if you would like to speak, do history, or tell us anything. We're very happy that you're here, and personally, we're glad you were not dissolved. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see, Laura, did you guys want to come up? We have a whole bunch of presentations, and I didn't want to. I know as anxious as you are to hear about the assessment service levels and town dissolution, I thought I'd give you a chance to come on up.
Thank you. I was really just here to listen to you guys, but given a platform, I'll take it. My name is Laura Klein, and I'm the president of Friends of Crawford Park. We're a nonprofit group that helps beautify and preserve the beautiful 36-acre park that you guys maintain. We just have a few announcements. We are doing our ongoing Music of the Mansion. Our next show is May 15th. It's a great jazz blues guitarist named Woody Mann, and we're thrilled to have him. Tickets are $20 in advance and $25 at the door, and the doors open at 7 p.m. So this is a great opportunity to come and enjoy some great music. The mansion kind of turns into this really cool pop-up coffee house. We have a liquor license that we have, so we have wine and beer, and we sell baked goods, and it's a really cool, if you haven't been yet, you should really check
That's
it
a
out.
great-
Very,
great event.
very cool. So it's a great way to support local parks and great music. Also, we're very busy because it's spring. May 16th at 10 a.m. is our annual planting day at the park. So we invite any volunteers that want to come with their shovels and their gloves to come and help us plant the annuals and the sunken garden and in front of the mansion and around the privet hedge. We are going to get a lot done that day to spruce up the park for the summer, spring season. So that's it. And the rain
That's at
date,
10 a.m.?
10 a.m.
Yep.
And if it rains, it'll be the following day, the 17th.
Okay.
So it's the same day as the carnival, so we'll have a little competition, but maybe you can get both in.
Oh,
And,
right.
Yeah.
Laura, the one thing I could suggest, if you want to communicate that planting day to the local schools, you know, I know that a lot of times, you know, the kids may want to get involved in some of these activities around the town, especially in the parks. It would be a great asset. It'd be
Yeah.
good for them, but also good for you.
Yeah, no, good. That's a great idea. We had the Girl Scouts that are already kind of, they volunteered last year, and they're going to help us out again, so it'll be great. So, thanks.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you for all your
Sure.
hard work at Crawford Park. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I see capital plan for Crawford Park. Are we doing that tonight? I know we're uncertain, Bishop.
Doing that tonight.
Oh, you are? Do you want to
Yeah.
kick that off while Laura's here? Do you want to show you?
Sure.
Want to go kick, yeah, well, why don't we move that up? And
Whatever makes more sense.
yeah, sure, why don't we go ahead and, kick if it's okay, do we computer-wise that work okay? To start with that?
I think he should be set up.
Not quite.
If it messes things up, we can keep the order.
No, we're good.
Sure, good.
Sit in the jury box.
Better?
see that. Can you
Perfect.
see up there, Bob? I can't see. What? No? Can you hear? Is that good? Okay, so this is the capital plan for Crawford Park. Tom, Nardi, and I have been working on this for a few months now, putting it together. We pulled it all together for this presentation. There are a number of photos and some numbers put together for this first year for the capital plan. What we tried to do is concentrate on those things that we think are important to get accomplished this year. And I know it's going to be a multi-year effort, and for this year we have about $300,000 budgeted for improvements at Crawford Park. So we laid out a plan on how we might spend that $300,000 today. This is a draft. I'd like to get some feedback from people, see if we want to move forward with this plan, so it's not set in concrete at this point in time. So I think I went through some of this. So overall, Crawford Park is in generally good condition, and I say that as a preemptive to the next few slides, where I'll show some areas that we need to make some improvements. So I'm going to show you part of the more distressed areas that need attention rather than some of the beautiful aspects of the park. So here, and I'm just going to walk around the building pictorially, and so you can see some of the things that we need to attend to at Crawford Park. Here, if you can view up on the screen, see my cursor bouncing around, this drain is actually pitched the wrong way, and it should be pitched this way, so water is running down along the steps. In the wintertime, that becomes a problem with ice collecting down on the bottom. It's all banged up, needs to be repaired. You probably can't see too well here, but there are various lines running up the chimney and around the building that we would need to kind of corral and make look more presentable. And I'm going to go quickly through these because I think we have about 29 slides. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, just want to show out some key, point out some key areas. So here you can see some deterioration here in the fascia board, near one of the ceiling gels. Here you can see the paint has been stripped off. You probably won't see this in the springtime with everything in bloom, but you can see it currently right now. It's down to the bare wood, needs to be repaired. Here are windows, or what used to be windows. There's some storm windows that have been installed, but they're missing. Yeah. All right, and you can look, the water's seeping in and starting to destroy the windows and the sills, and the sashes, if you will, and the sills. Again, you can see this on the second floor, same sort of situation. Again, down along the bottom here, we have a downspout coming down, and you see the paint has been worn to the bare wood, so that wood will begin rotting if it hasn't already. Again, you can see the windows are in pretty bad condition. This is on the second floor again. Here's the front entranceway. The doors need some major work here. A lot of paint's been kicked off. It looks like people may have been propping this door open with their foot, so maybe we need to put a brass plate there or something to prevent that. Again, you see some deteriorations, and this is all discolored. It needs another paint job. You see some paint peeling here. Again, down here along the bottom, this looks like it may have started to rot a little bit. Going around the side of the house, you see the same situation, falling around the side. Here's the back of the house. And you'll see some of the same things on the back of the house as you do on the front. I didn't take any detailed pictures here, but the same thing occurs here as well. And then along the back, there are some trenches here where you can see paint. Water has collected and started to deteriorate the paint. You can see it on the sideboard. You can see it especially down in this area. We have some drains here which probably need to be covered a lot better than that to prevent anyone from having an accident. And we probably want to cover these with some bushes or the like plantings that, so no one would actually go back there or see anything. Anybody know what this is?
That's the baseball field.
Yeah, see home plate? Yeah, that's, I've heard a couple of different stories on why it exists like it does. I'm not sure, I've heard the last of the stories. We intend to fix it and put some new clay in and repair it so that people can use it once again as a ball field. I took a walk around some of the paths, and some of the paths have, it's not a lot of areas from what I can tell, but there are certain key areas, the pavement has buckled, it's deteriorated. We have like a sinkhole here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a crack that runs here where it's actually sunken down, and there's a puddle that's formed there. There's another crack that runs along here. So there's a few places on the pathway that I think, if we just repair it, it'll last a long time. I don't think we have to repave everything, but there's just a few key sections. And this is the pavilion. And I took a couple of shots around here. Here, first of all, there are a couple of dead branches that are hanging down here, which could be a potential hazard because in the summertime, the kids camp, plays, and aggregates in this area. So we want to make sure that that's safe for them. Also, there are a couple of trees here. This tree, this is one tree here with several trunks. I think there are about 4 trunks. And this one is actually leaning over the pavilion. And I got another shot of this, so let me see.
That tree also, if I remember correctly, that tree compromises the asphalt that's underneath, that asphalt walkway, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
And so we're recommending that originally just take this down, but we're told that you can't just take one down. It's going to ruin the roots eventually. You have to take the whole tree down. So we have a proposal to take the whole tree down and plant 2 additional trees in their place.
Yeah, the proposal consists of taking the tree down, pruning the tree in front, and putting in 2 new trees. And with the proposal, they would work with the Friends of Crawford Park to see what type of trees they would like.
And the reason why we say this, because, now there are no leaves here, but with leaves, this entire roof is shaded. Moisture develops, and if you look, I think I have another shot where you can see it, you'll see that the roof is all full of moss, which could hasten the deterioration of the roof. Here it is from the other side, so this is the one we were looking at, which is just hanging over the roof of the pavilion. And then here, if you look closely, you see like fuzzy stuff here. That's moss that's growing on top of the roof, which could lead to moisture problems, deterioration of the roof, etc. And then here's coming off of the pavilion area on the back end. All this blacktop needs to be fixed because it presents a hazard. In the summertime, the kids all aggregate underneath here. If they come running out of here, it could be a potential trip hazard. We need to identify a solution for this. One of the ideas was to put a railing up here, straighten this out a little bit,
Yeah.
make it as even embankment, put a railing
Yeah,
so that...
building a knee wall and
knee
putting a railing, filling it in.
Right.
So this way, it's handicap accessible for when they go around to the bathrooms. And that's another reason why the tree has to come down. Because of one of the proposals we have is that we want to do the bathrooms over. Those bathrooms really need to be redone. But to do it and make it handicap accessible, we're going to have to widen that platform, that blacktop. And to do that, you're going to have to do a knee wall and a railing to make it safe.
And at that point, we'd be better off doing that all in concrete anyway.
Whichever material, you know.
Yeah, that would make sense. And this way you can, and one of the purposes, so you can walk out of here walk straight down here, or someone, a handicapped person might be able to wheel themselves down here around the corner and get into the bathroom.
And right over to the left of that last post is the little driveway. But we were told that they use that driveway to back trucks up from when they got to take the tables out and stuff. So, because ideally it would be nice to put the railing all the way down, but they say they need that driveway. So,
Okay, so that's it for the photo tour. So, I've broken the capital plan up into 4 main areas. The exterior of the home, the main house, the interior of the main house, then the pavilion, and then the playground and fields and other related matters. And so you'll see a lot of different categories here, and keep in mind that this is a multi-year effort. So what I'm showing here is just what we believe the year 1 expenditures and projects would be and the relative cost of those projects. So some of these we have some fairly good estimates on. Others, we couldn't develop an estimate for every single thing in the time allotted, but we want to get concurrence and agreement in terms of the right projects to work on in the first year. And once we have that, we can then go and get more solid estimates. Suffice it as it may, we believe some of the estimates are either, pretty, accurate and/or an overestimate. So we believe we can come in under the numbers we're presenting here. So for the first year on the exterior, we were considering replacing the windows, painting the exterior, repairing some windows and doors, providing some exterior lighting upgrades. We had someone look at the gutters. They said there's some minor gutter repairs, but it didn't look like they all needed to be replaced. And then some hardware repairs, building service trenches, those were the things I showed you in the back that we wanted to cover up. And a couple of people mentioned the keyless entry system, which we thought would be a good idea.
The keyless entry would be, the reason why the keyless entry is because with some keyless entries, you give one person a code and that's there, you can keep a record of who's going in and out instead of just giving keys, because the lock by the kitchen door is really getting worn. And if we do a keyless entry, you give a certain person a code and you can have a record of who's going in and out.
So that's the exterior, sorry. Okay, the interior, following a similar plan, we anticipate addressing some code deficiencies. We give you an update on that a little bit later. We have some new revelations that we'd like to share with the board. Men's and toilet room upgrade. There were some, I didn't take any photos of the toilet room. I didn't think it was appropriate to show them here in this forum, but there's some upgrades that would need to be made to the women's room and the men's room inside the mansion itself. Some emergency lighting and exit sign upgrades, which I think would be very useful to have. There could be some other repairs or restoration of the windows, the doors, et cetera, and especially in the solarium, which has a unique window system. And then some non-damaging wall mounts for decorations. Everyone who comes there wants to hang decorations for whatever function they're having. So we're looking for a means to put some wall mounts that would not damage the walls and that anyone coming in there could use and reuse. So that would be it for the inside. We saved some of the more expensive items for the inside, since the inside wasn't as bad as the outside. We saved some of the more expensive items for the inside for the later years, 2 to 3 or year 4. Okay. The next would be the pavilion area. So one of the major projects we think we should kick off now is repairing the toilet facilities in both the men's and the women's in the pavilion area. That's one thing we want to get started right away. Actually, did we get that started?
Yeah, we, and Bishop, where are we with the RFP for the architect?
The RFP is out. We have a walkthrough scheduled for April 29th for any interested parties. And don't hold me to it, I think it's May 14th is when proposals would be due from them.
Okay, so that, so you're right. So that marries well,
Right.
the RFP for the architect marries well with the capital plan.
Yeah, so we want to get that going and, as soon as possible, being that there'll be a lot of, people will be using it, not so much now, but come the summertime, there'll be a lot of use for that. So we want to make sure we get that kicked off and started right away. North side, that's that build-up in the patio that we saw, that big drop-off, so we're looking to get that fixed this year as well. And then there was a suggestion for improved lighting system. We still need to design what exactly that means, and we put some money in for that as well. The last item is the playground and fields. This is kind of, if it didn't fit into any of the other areas, we put it here. Decorative light leading up to the mansion.
We were thinking about a couple more of the iron lights coming up. Get a couple more to come as it comes around to turn to the courtyard, because it just like stops too far away from the mansion. So this way, I think about two more should, because I had an electrician come and he suggested two more. He took pictures of it to see what company it is to try to match it as closely as possible.
And then revitalize the baseball field. We got a rough estimate on that for about $6,000.
Yeah.
And that's replacing or adding clay back into the...
Yeah, well, first of all, the weeds have to come up, it's got to be raked out, and then the clay has to be put down, and it's got to be leveled off.
Then replacing the water fountain, which I'm told doesn't work or is cracked and needs to be repaired. Clear trim trees near the pavilion, that's the tree we were talking about.
Yeah.
We got an estimate for that of around $3,000, including planting two new trees. And then repair the walking path, which is
The trees that they wanted, that we got in that $3,000, the trees are about 5 foot tall that they were replacing. We won't put small ones because they'll get trampled. So you have to put something substantial.
And so the total for all four areas comes to about $296,000. I think we had budgeted $300,000. We're a little bit under that. I think we could come under this as well. So I think we have some room to spare. Any questions?
Wonderful. Well, thank you, first of all, so much for that presentation. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I would just like to add in that about a week and a half ago, Bishop and I did a walkthrough for an energy audit. We began the energy audit process for Crawford Park, which we're waiting for the initial results of that. And if there's, hopefully some tie-in on the recommendations there that we could do while we're doing capital improvements, the time would be the right time to do it if we can incorporate any of those recommendations.
Yeah, we're putting energy efficient windows in.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Actually,
We're going to get a pretty comprehensive report, so, and they'll be coming back and they'll be doing we were there for about an hour or hour 15 minutes, but they said they'd be coming back and doing about 3 hours of really in-depth studies on the mansion itself and making some recommendations for the whole park overall. And if we can't make some of these investments in a way that we can recoup some of that expense through energy savings, now is certainly the time to do it while we're working with the architect and investing in the park itself.
That's a wonderful idea. Actually, I met with the solar guy this morning, and he says he can take down my Con Ed bill by, 35%, 40%. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Must not be the guy who came to my house because he told me the village that we live in would not allow you to put it up facing the street.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
My guy didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, we love the idea of putting solar on the pavilion roof because I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have done a study on the pavilion roof yet. I think that one's got to be replaced sooner than the mansion roof, the pavilion roof. But it's not quite facing the right direction. We have to do a little bit more comprehensive study on that.
Are you guys going to do something for Rydtown Park as well? I know you started at Crawford. Well, actually,
We're
I want to
starting
ask both questions
Crawford,
for both of you, but I mean, whatever happened to our solar panel parking lot idea?
Well, I got no interest from the Rytown Park Commission when we presented it.
That's a tough sell for the residents to look at.
Nobody seemed to want to move
Was I
up.
at that meeting? I don't remember that.
Well, I want to say this. If the Rytown Park Commission is not taking a proactive stance on solar at Rytown Park, let's not wait for that. Let's take the proactive stance. Let's put everything in order. And instead of saying, okay, guys, we want permission to get a report so we can, discuss
Right.
solar at Rytown Park, let's not do that. Let's get the report. Let's identify what the savings can be and identify what we can do
What
and
can be
present
done
that to
first,
the
sure.
board
Yeah,
with some real numbers.
I don't remember the pushback. In fact, I don't remember the presentation. I know we talked about it, but I don't remember a formal presentation along the lines, the savings and all
No,
that.
you're right.
Right.
The presentation that was made by Standard Solar was a very basic presentation.
Right.
But there was no values presented to the commission. So what I'm suggesting is that we reach out and we get that formal presentation and let's show some,
Yeah, 'cause
some
that's-
savings.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
based on my experience with what we're learning about solar, I think your greatest challenges at Rytown Park are the infrastructure. It's not strong enough. We'd have to do quite a bit of intensive labor to bring it up to code to hold the panels on the roofs. So the roofs are questionable as they stand now. Building a structure is certainly an option, but is that really a viable solution? How is the community going to react to that? But you could do solar gardens. There are so many ways, and I see no harm in having an expert come in, analyze it, and get back to us and find out if it's an avenue worth pursuing.
Terrific. So Bishop, can we follow up on that?
Yep.
And I think, good suggestion, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. I think that's absolutely correct. By the way, again, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation on the capital expenditure. Again, at some point, we did talk about this at Rytown Park. In fact, we were singing your praises, Councilman Nioras, for the last one you did 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how long and difficult it would be to dust that off, but I think over the coming months, it's pretty clear we need to come up with a projected capital expenditure plan for Rytown Park. We can't just continue to sit and let it deteriorate and have what we call a roof to nowhere. We put $1.4 million in the roof, and right now it's a roof to nowhere at this point. So, well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, town dissolution, I think, is the next one on the. Laura, did you have any questions, comments? Yeah, please. Sorry.
No, thank you for giving me
Yep.
more opportunity. Thank you guys so much for putting so much time in. It really, you guys are, everything that I was thinking of is in there, and the ball field looks horrible. The one thing that, once we put we've done the soil and the grading before, but we have to kind of work it into the weekly maintenance of the park, because I see when I look at Pine Ridge Park, they go over and they rake so that no seed or grass gets embedded back into doing it and restoring it once is great, but we have to come up with a maintenance plan to make sure that the ball field is usable moving forward.
We should
just fix
definitely
it
make sure
once
we
and then-
integrate.
I was going to say, maybe with the RFP comes out, we can include that in there, like maybe for
Yeah, they
year's
just need to get a
maintenance.
rate, you know what they need? They need something to
Yes.
pull behind the tractor so that they can just kind of make it so that it's graded each time, so that they don't.
Make sure the clay is level and everything, yeah.
Right,
And
right.
stripe it out.
Yeah, no, but I think the plan looks wonderful, and thank you so much. And when are we going to gain approval from the board?
I think we pretty much have the approval. A lot of it, as you saw, this is actually orchestrated. We had the financial presentation where we got
Right.
the financials in order. And
So
one
the
of the
money's
things we
there,
talked
right.
about doing, so I would expect, I don't know if you want to vote on it tonight or you want to vote it on it in a future session.
I would feel better. Let's see what we can pull together over the next month, because we're going to need to obviously work with the finance department. We may have to identify the way we're going to fund the capital
Yep.
program. Capital programs, I mean, and this isn't a repair where it's going to come out of our budget. So if we're going to put together a capital program,
And
we're going to want a
funding.
bond for that.
Yep.
And so if we're thinking 300, if we're thinking something else, I'd rather have our council, our finance department speak to bond council, and let's come up with an appropriate way to fund everything before making that decision.
Yeah, I would say
But-
since
but
it's
I
the
think-
first time we're seeing these numbers
Yeah, right, it's
outside
perfect.
of Bob.
In all fairness, it's the first time they've seen this.
Yeah,
so
I know, even
I want-
Bishop.
But it's very exciting, and I think we're all very eager to start seeing some progress as soon as possible.
this
And I
is
think
great. I
between
mean-
the energy analysis and the RFP for the architect and the capital plan, the timing couldn't be more right. So
Right,
we're
right.
eager
And
to
now that
make
we're
moves
still
as
not
quickly as
dissolving
possible.
and you have a direction and we know
Yeah,
we need
the
to,
season,
you know.
it's the perfect season to start making
Right,
decisions and
right.
seeing progress.
Right.
So the answer is ASAP.
So Laura, you can pretty much go back to your team and let them know we're committed to the 300,000. It just comes down to executing the proper way and
Yeah.
making sure that we incorporate all the items into that loan.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you.
If I could just add one thing, with the RFP for the architect out there, I did not see any soft costs. I would say to you that you're going to be adding a substantial number for architect and engineering if, in fact, it's needed for some of these projects. You're going to be beyond the 300,000, I would think.
I have a
If
question.
For the window replacement, you won't need an architect.
That's what I was going to ask.
You know,
What-
the architect, you won't need it for the windows, for the painting, the gutter repairs,
Lighting,
lighting.
Yeah, what are we going to need the architect
you're
for
going to
at
need
this
the
stage?
architect for the
For
bathrooms at the
bathrooms.
pavilion.
At the pavilion, we definitely need that. You're gonna need the architect
and you're
for
gonna
the
need
walkway.
for the walkway.
For the back of the pavilion, for putting up the knee wall. What's gonna be the proper distance, you know?
I watched that also. I don't know if it makes sense, since our finances are fairly good and the bond market's fairly good. We had that stairway where you make,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
was
if you
going to
looked
ask
at,
about the stairway.
because it makes the whole of the upstairs
Completely
viable.
more viable. I mean,
And
couldn't
I
agree
don't
more.
know, we got, if it, how far, we had an architect look at
We
it and tell us it cost
have,
$90,000.
right, we have complete set of drawings and engineering, and when we bid the job, if you'll remember, I think we had 4 or 5 bidders on the job, and it was $95,000.
but
Yeah.
the project did grow.
Yeah,
we
it
did keep
started out
adding it.
around 35,000.
That's why we balked.
Well, it started out as a fire escape on
Right.
the back of the mansion,
Maybe we can
and
revisit that again.
I'd love to
It's
revisit
not,
it.
here's the thing, and I remember specifically why that took a quick stall. And the main issue is that if we had the reason to have this constant accessibility to the second floor, then we invest the money in the secondary means of egress. And I think at that point, we were discussing, okay, so what are we going to do with the second floor? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe we can have somebody meet there. Maybe we can have this. Maybe we can have that.
If you build it, they will come.
Right. So if we came up with a plan and had a specific, because you can't go into providing that secondary means of egress without a plan for the
Sure.
second floor.
I think that makes perfect sense.
So I would say
And that exactly was our thoughts.
That was it.
Exactly. So we
So-
said, we didn't see the need or the demand for it, so
Right.
we didn't
So if we're
didn't
looking at
move any forward on
$100,000
that.
But perhaps we could go back to revisiting
Yeah.
the smaller scale fire escape rather than the full-blown staircase.
Yeah, I think, I'm happy to take a look at the initial, for me, I think that you can find uses, like you say, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
For
but
me,
maybe we should put some formal use case scenarios together and see if
I'm
it's
not, would you like to work on that already? Well, you guys are already working on it, for the capital expenditure.
I think we could just start an email exchange of some
Perfect.
various ideas to begin with, and then
Beautiful.
if somebody knows somebody who might actually be more viably interested, like an organization or whatnot, then we can one-on-one
Oh, I
reach out
think
to those.
if you want to give it to the not-for-profits and reduce rent or something like that, they'll fill it up in a second.
Well, if you do an external staircase, you want it to make sure that it looks aesthetically
This one,
pleasing.
Oh, yeah,
this one was
sure.
internal.
Internal,
This
The
one
one we
was
looked at was
internal.
internal.
Was
Yeah.
internal?
By the time everything
Going
was
into
said
the
and done,
kitchen?
that's why
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
that's
Going
why it
into
grew
the
to the
kitchen.
100,000,
Yeah.
because it was a beautiful
And then, yes,
solution.
the external, you're absolutely right, that was the whole issue, the trade-off.
Yeah.
That was-
$30,000, but it's not going to make a stake. If you're painting and you're putting in
No, exactly.
the window, you don't want to. I still like the solution the Chamber of Commerce had when they were there. They said they had rope ladders they could throw out the window. I thought that was a cost benefit. Good. All right. Well, thanks very much again. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Nioras. Thank you, Councilman Nardi. Okay. Well, look, I think as everybody knows, Goldie, I don't know if she's left, be very happy to hear that town dissolution certainly won't happen with this board in its current configuration. The Village of Portchester voted on March 23rd not to go forward with home rule legislation, and the Village of Mamaroneck that night also reversed their earlier decision and voted 3-1-1 to change. Now, I think you get the wrong presentation there right now.
Yes. We're getting the right one.
So we'll get the right one. And well, while we're waiting for the presentation, basically, well, the first thing I want to do is thank this board. We launched a historic process that, I would argue was fairly courageous. Very few governments are prepared to vote themselves out of office. We launched a process 6 years ago where that was, could have happened. In fact, it still could have happened. So I think it was part of the reform effort that this board's always undertaken. So I wanted to, first of all, thank the board for the effort. I think we had, oh, there you go. So we launched a process that was unprecedented. We gave our constituent municipalities and citizens a historic opportunity to eliminate an unnecessary layer of government. So I wanted to thank this board for that effort. I think it's fair to say that I was very much in favor of moving forward, the process forward, and I would have preferred to have it move forward. But the one thing that really was deeply disappointing to me was the way it came to an end. I don't, we launched it with a lot of good faith, transparency, and hard work. And as we'll see in a little bit, I ultimately, at the end of the day, I didn't feel what we got really a good result in terms of the decision that was made. I would have far preferred for people to say, at the Portchester, who I thought was the big beneficiary, would have far preferred Portchester to say, yeah, there's $1 million in savings, more or less. It certainly was town accountant Terenzi's view as he expressed it in the meeting. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it. It's much better to have another layer of government and make a decision on those terms. And as we'll see in a second, that's not what the basis for the decision was. But we'll do a brief recap. At this point, as I say, town dissolution for this board is off the table. It won't happen. As everybody knows, we'll have an election in November where the control of the Rye-Town Board will be up. And so for this board, town dissolution's over. And so my purpose tonight really is to, at least set the record straight, or certainly give my view of the record to memorialize the process for posterity and history, and again, obviously, give this board an opportunity to weigh in as well. So, did you go to the next slide? This is just a recap. One thing is, as I looked at this and we thought about it, basically, if you think about it, over the last 150 years, we've moved government closer to the people. So the Village of Portchester incorporated in late 1800s and therefore took over fire, garbage, and police. The Village of Mamaroneck incorporated in the late 1800s, as did the Village of Rye in the late 1800s. Rye City opted out, as we all know, became the last municipality to become a city in 1940. And finally, the Village of Rye Brook was created in 1982. So that was the last entity that ultimately created a municipality, moving government closer to the people, which left the town of Rye, quite frankly, at least in my view, well, certainly no unincorporated area, and, I would argue no real reason for being. In any case, in August 2010, we came together with Portchester, Rybrook, Mamaroneck. We jointly applied for a grant to study town dissolution and shared service alternatives amongst the villages. There were several public meetings. Finally, in November 2012, CGR published a first report with, at that time, unanimous support from the steering committee. In April 2014, CGR updated the numbers. Now, one thing I really liked about CGR was their independent third-party analysis. I was always reluctant to release town numbers. I put them in the appendix here, and we've had some conversation about town numbers. But if the process had gone forward, and we'll see that in a second, we would have had to bring CGR in a third time to update the numbers. And again, this was not a process where we were going to do it come what may. As well, if we just go to the next slide, we had a first set of numbers in November 2012. You go to the next slide. Those numbers improved in April 2014. If in April 2015 they come back negative, the process would have been over. And the thing I liked about the process was the transparency, the third-party objectivity. I think CGR produced a report that was unparalleled of its kind. Next slide. This is where we got to. This is directly from the Westmore News. You know, basically the courts are already operating here. They would have continued to operate here. Tax collection and assessment. I made a commitment to Hope, Honorable Mr. Mecca, and all the people at the Christmas party this year that come what may, to Town Assessor Kanapka, I would make it every effort to at least keep them on for 2 or 3 years for the foreseeable future. And I think that would have been relatively achievable with what we had envisioned for collection assessment. Crawford Park. Now, not everybody knows this. Mayor Pagano and Village Manager Steers met with Rybrook just a month ago, or 4 to 5 weeks ago now. They agreed to joint ownership and joint operation of Crawford Park. That clearly was a big sticking issue for Portchester. Portchester made that very clear. They had a first negotiation in April 2014. I remember distinctly Mayor Pagano going to that meeting, and I thought the process may come to an end again. In April 2014, Rybrook, who wanted to solely operate and own, decided they'd rather have Town Dissolution jointly operate. And again, that was reconfirmed, and I think what they were talking about was a commission to run Crawford Park. Rytown Park, basically there are several options. One of the important things to understand about the process is that in order for the things to move forward, the participants had to engage. It was a negotiated process. Again, Portchester was in a very strong negotiating position. I thought they could have done well in the negotiations. Next slide. And basically, these were the ambitious goals, admittedly ambitious goals we had for 2015. The hope was that we'd get all 4 municipalities to vote in favor. Mamaroneck initially voted in favor in January 3-2. Rybrook, well, actually it was February by the time there was no dates. February, Rybrook as well, and we were hopeful that Portchester would vote as well. If they'd gone forward, we would have legislation drafted, CGR would have been brought in again, and another round of votes would have taken place. And then we would have had a referendum sometime in November. Next slide. And here's where we, came to a disappointing end. And the reason for me it was disappointing, and we'll see this more clearly, is the Village of Portchester said the process was patently flawed. The process was patently flawed, and I obviously fundamentally disagree with that. And then, as we talked about earlier, Village of Mamaroneck, no new presentation, decided to reverse itself once Portchester made its vote. Next slide. Now, this was the presentation made by the village manager of Portchester. It's important to note that all other potential liability impacts are to be determined or unknown. Well, that, quite frankly, is not the case. What's the real cost of providing Rytown service levels? Unknown, unknown, unknown. So after 6 years of hard work, over 2,000 man-hours, the village manager of Portchester decided to make a presentation and said, unknown, unknown, unknown. I find that very disappointing. Next slide. He said he used the term, he taught, so basically the village of Portchester basically said that ultimately they were unable to determine, or CGR didn't even look at, real service levels. And what was required was a study of real service levels here at the town of Rye. Now, Village Manager Steers contended, if you look at the transcript of the meeting, by the way, all this is on our website, all these documents, he said, in the course of the village meeting on March 23rd, said basically, you know, why do you keep arguing about this? I've been asking the committee, I've asked Carvin, we've talked about it, I've talked to Chris Bradbury about it, but for 2 years, these additional assessments have not been done. So what's there to talk about? Well, you know, at the end of the day, I have no recollection of his request for additional service levels. And we'll talk about the substance about it a little later. Obviously, it was very clear to some of us that if it was so fundamental that you're not going to move forward, that it would have been incumbent on the Village of Portchester to talk about those service levels. Mayor Rosenberg, in a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, you can see it there, said at no time did any of the steering committee members raise an issue with the process, not the result, the process. If certain steering committee members wanted to analyze the cost of providing a higher level of service than the tour was providing, it was never communicated to the rest of us or the committee. This is another example of special interests in politics raising their heads. That was Mayor Rosenberg's comments. Next slide. We all knew coming into this that once Mamaroneck voted in favor, Briar Brook would vote in favor, and then Portchester was the next critical community to vote. Portchester, of course, is heading into a mayoral election on March 18th. So we took it upon ourselves, and I want to thank Mr. Arcaro and Mr. Nowotnik for working hundreds of hours, in trying to anticipate and update the process. So in the January 29th Steering Committee, we met and agreed to produce a new memo updating the issues surrounding town dissolution and a series of workshops where everyone was invited to attend and share their concerns. By this time, there was concerns shared by the Mayor of Mamaroneck and other people. We said, please, come share your concerns. Let's try and address them. Maybe there's a way to work this out. We had workshops, invited everybody, January 30th, February 3rd, February 5th. At no time did anyone from Portchester or anywhere else for that matter call the working group with concerns or express concerns that this process was patently flawed. The updated memos were produced and distributed to each of the municipalities on February 11th. We asked that these memos be forwarded to each of the public officials on each of the municipal boards. Again, inviting comment on February 11th. Again, no one from Portchester came back with a single comment, not a single comment. No one talked about the process being patently flawed. And again, for the record, the first time I heard that Village Manager Steers was of the view that town dissolution process was patently flawed because no service level analysis was conducted was when I read the transcript of the March 23rd meeting. That's my view. Obviously, Village Manager Steers has a different view. I'm at a loss to explain the difference in memory. I'm at a loss to explain why he believes he communicated, and both Mayor Rosenberg and myself did not. And it's a very stark contrast with the clear concerns that were raised about who would run Crawford Park. Obviously, that was a deal breaker. Portchester very clearly expressed those concerns. And finally, if they wanted to study the service levels, we would have done it. Why not? If there was a deep-seated concern that would derail the process, why not study the service levels? It would have cost some money. We would have put it to the steering committee, but why not? Why not do that? Next slide. Anyway, lessons learned. One of the big lessons learned was we should have involved Assemblyman Otis from day one. And I want to say this before I forget. There were three groups of people, if you will, in this process, in my view, who were absolutely fantastic. One was Assemblyman Otis. And if we'd had him from day one, I think the process could have been different. We made a mistake of fundamental mistakes. One of the big fundamental mistakes we made was we didn't have a real solution for Rye-Neck. And, that's partly a result of CGR, as you pointed out early today, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, partly a result of Mamaroneck, maybe being too confident, and a problem with the whole steering committee. If we'd had Assemblyman Otis from day one, we would have understood stood that problem. The other thing is we had a consensus, you need to execute, execute, execute. Everything in government takes too long, and we didn't push the process forward. Provide better leadership and communication to build a constituency reform. Here's where I want to take the blame. Here's where I think I made a mistake. I don't think I provided the kind of leadership and communication that was required for such a complex effort as this. I should have done a far better job of reaching out to each of the members of the Portchester board. If I was so committed to this, I should have sat down with them, explained it to them. I did that with some and should have done it with all. This board, I should have done a far better job of communicating my view to this board. Try and show you at least the vision and sit down with everybody in this board. So
Joe, I got to stop you there because I think that you are being just a little too hard on yourself. And this is, I think we'll all understand this. From the beginning, you were very passionate about this. It stalled. You picked it up again. It stalled. You picked it up again. There has to be some responsibility, on the other members of the steering committee. Okay. So, and if you didn't pick it up, it would have just died. So at least, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's important. That's important to know. So I think you'd be a little too hard on yourself. But there was all the effort was, I feel, it was a Carvin effort. So and you're giving a lot of credit to many people, but most of the credit needs to go to you, and not necessarily to other people that it's their job or they were being paid to do the project.
Well,
I would agree.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, well, it's very kind of you. The other two groups I wanted to mention, Chris Bradbury attended every workshop, really worked very hard on the process as well, dedicated a lot of time to it. And finally, the town employees of Rye-Town. I have to say the employees of Rye-Town have lived on the specter of town dissolution for 7 years, and this board. And we've had to manage this in if you will, a sort of haphazard, fashion. Are we going to survive? Are we not? Do we make $300,000 capital expenditure knowing we may dissolve or not? So I think I wanted to really congratulate both the town employees in particular in this board, but the town employees really worked with us, just as dedicated. Now, I've been here, 7.5 years now? I am always impressed at the dedication of our staff. Denise Knauer's come in new. She keeps telling me, man, boy, this staff is fantastic. These people are hard working. They're early and they leave late. You are so lucky. And you know what? We are. We're very lucky. Look, and it's all not for naught. There's some process positives. There's been a framework that's outlined and analyzed. You have basically some savings identified by CGR and some shared service and alternatives that we might be able to pick up on. And again, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, you've been very attentive to that, and we need to continue to work on that to move those forward. I think that's it. Is that right? One thing Albany, I think one thing Albany could do is say, if they said to Portchester, you can achieve city status, well, I'll bet you what, Portchester would be on that pretty quick. Again, the shared service alternatives, and then obviously, look, as I say, I personally didn't build that constituency for support, and the voters will have a chance to weigh in November. I think that's it, right? And, there's appendix if you want to look through that's fine. I think the appendix is. So that's I want to say. I don't know if anybody on the board had any of the further comments, questions.
Well, the one comment I do want to make is that's on the shared services. The one thing that we did say early on is that at the end of the process, at the end of the study, there needs to be obviously actionable item. And what we can take away from this is we've clearly outlined, the financial picture, and I definitely think that we need to focus on making sure that we can use that framework and focus on the shared services, not only within the governments, within the schools, and make a better effort that way going forward. So I think that's something we can take from this.
Thank you, Deputy. Anybody else?
No, I think shared services is certainly the main takeaway. I think it's always been the area where we can see the greatest savings, and just because dissolution might be a closed book, I think that shared services should certainly continue to be explored as a result of this study.
Thank you.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Now, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, I think you got some good news for us.
Yeah, okay, so we've had a series of meetings, and I'll just quick recap for people that aren't aware. The town of Rye was part of discussions several years ago with regards to the opportunity to participate with the Westchester County Legacy Field grants. And through a series of years and stalls, that happened primarily on the county level with county elections. This opportunity kind of came and went. But we are very lucky that we stayed engaged. And I did have a series of meetings. The last meeting, and I'm just going to mention the names because I think it's very important that the community knows the involvement and the effort and the dedication that's going forward with this process. So we had, at our last meeting, which was the 13th of April, we had Dr. Klitschus, the superintendent of the Portchester schools. We had Principal Swift, Maura McAward, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Durney, Mr. Renda. We had George Zoros, who's the county executive chief of staff. We had Legislator Gelfarb, his assistant Jill Axelrod. We had Attorney Noto and myself. And so we met and we went over the opportunity to participate in getting monies from the county. So what we did identify is that the need is still there. We did identify that it's still a viable project. And we also, we feel that this may now fall under the Westchester County Stormwater Reconnaissance Program, which is very current. In addition to that, the FEMA plan shows the flood zone is still hasn't left the rear of the Portchester Middle School. Mr. Durney, in one of our discussions, it's not just about the field. The fields that we have to provide our children and the players on the teams, they're called competition grade fields. It's not a field that you go to Lions Park and you say, this is great, we're running around in the grass. But you can't turn around and say, just it's a grassy field, it's going to be a competition field. It's a special level. And that we can't get to that level until we identify the managing the storm water. And once we do that, not only would we benefit in seeing the town of Rye students being able to be on a separate field, but subsequently the communities downstream, Rye Brook, Rye, Mamaroneck will also benefit from this program. So where we are now, we've identified engineering reports and plans that have been created already. Those are going to be put together with existing plans that the county has. We have a promise from George Oros that he's going to be meeting with the Westchester County Planning Department, and we're waiting on this information to come back to us before we have our next meeting. So we're still driving the process. And the Portchester School District, and the reason why I mentioned their names, this isn't one little meeting. We have all the stakeholders here, and no one remembers the amount of effort that's happening right now, happening in the past. So we have to think that goes a long way. And I want to thank Town Attorney Noto for attending the meeting with me. I think that really added a lot to the process. I don't know if Mr. Noto, do you have any comment? No, you said it all. Thank you. All right, thank you. That's it.
Excellent. Well, kudos to you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, for picking this project back up and running with it. It's an excellent project, and if you can get that field done, that'd be fantastic. Great coup for the community. Okay. Town Assessor Knauer, one of the things that came out of the Village of Portchester meeting was a serious concern expressed, as we'll see, by the Village of Portchester about the assessment service levels, and I know Town Assessor Knauer has a presentation, want to talk about that, address the issue.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. Assessor Denise Knauer here. And my presentation this evening, hopefully it will be fairly brief, is about the service levels of the assessment department and I would like to demonstrate that they are, in fact, adequate and real. The overview of this presentation is that recently the Village of Portchester claimed that their approximate 25% reduction in their assessed values from 2008 to 2014 was a result of inadequate staffing in the assessment department. The town's rebuttal to this inference is that current assessment department staffing is consistent with the International Association of Assessing Officer Guidelines, that's the IAAO, and the Village of Portchester's annual assessment trends are consistent with not only other villages within the town of Rye, but also other communities in the county. The village's assessments are also consistent with market trends and sales data. The significant decrease in the village's assessments is directly related to the loss in value of the disproportionate number of 2 to 3 family dwellings within the village. There are approximately 39% of the homestead class is 2 to 3 family dwellings. And the 2014 assessment roll, which was the first roll that I was completely responsible for, which was also based on 2013 sales, increased overall just roughly under 1% from the 13 assessment roll, and that's due to market conditions. That wasn't, I really can't take credit for that. It really was due to market conditions. So the village manager, in a presentation in the context of town dissolution, questioned whether the town of Rye's assessment service level is quote-unquote real, and he later characterized it at best being artificial or perhaps contrived. The village manager and other members of the board seem to believe that the town of Rye's assessment services have led to an erosion of their assessed values and therefore their real estate tax revenue. So from 2008 to 2014, their overall assessment did erode approximately 24%. The village concluded that until an independent evaluation of the town's assessment services is conducted, it is not certain whether Town of Rye's assessment department is the cause of that 25% decline in assessed values since '08. Rather than citing the IAAO guidelines, the village manager Steers cited a devastating 2007 critique of the town's assessment department from the previous administration, now 8 years out of date. Basically, the official guidance of the IAAO is that there should be 1 full-time employee for every 25,000 parcels.
Wait, 2,500.
I'm sorry, 2,500 parcels. Correct, we don't even have 25,000 parcels. Okay. So, in fact, we have 11,091 parcels, and when that's divided by our 4.5 employees, that equates to roughly 2,465 parcels per employee, which falls right within the guideline. Furthermore, we have supplemented our staff, we've worked hard at doing this, using third-party vendors with cutting-edge technology, such as Vision Appraisal, GAR Associates, and IncomeWorks. So the overall assessments have been going down. And in Westchester County, they're down approximately 17%. In the entire village, in the entire town of Rye, they're down approximately 19%. Village of Rye Brook is down approximately 13%. Mamaroneck, Rye Neck is down approximately 18%, and Portchester is down approximately 26%. So the town's assessed values for Portchester are consistent with what the rest of the municipalities throughout Westchester are experiencing, as well as within the town. And this chart is just the details of the statistics on the prior page, where you can see that these are the amounts that the assessments went down overall over time. Portchester is a community that's assessed at full value. So assessed values follow market trends more closely than non-revalue communities throughout the county. Residential properties are directly impacted by changes in residential sales prices. So as the prices drop, the assessments drop, and as the sales prices increase, the assessments increase. The commercial portion represents only about 20% of the parcels within the village of Portchester, and they were down only 8%. The residential portion is approximately 80% of the parcels, and that drop was approximately 31%. So really, the residential piece represented 89% of the overall decline. So again, the Village of Portchester homestead class resulted in approximately 89% in the decline, and that was further exacerbated by the disproportionately high number of 2 to 3 family homes. And I think this slide is the crux of the reason why Portchester has experienced a greater decline in assessed values than the other communities. And if you can see here, we have the 39% of the homestead being 2 to 3 families, and they decreased approximately 46% for 2 families, 44% for 3 families, where single families were only decreasing approximately 21%. And in the village of Rye Brook, just as a comparative, about 10% are 2 to 3 families, and in Rye Neck, about 21% of their residential is 2 to 3 families.
Denise, could you just go back to that for a second? In fact, go back one more slide if you would. You know, this is the second time the Village of Portchester has come to us and told us that they're, the last time they came and talked to us, they basically said they're losing tax revenue as a result of underassessment. And every time they do it, a single building sells for more than certain trustees in the Village of Portchester believe it ought to sell for. So the first thing I want to point out, the commercial properties, the businesses, how much are they down, Denise?
About 8%.
8%. I just want the people at home to say 8%. So the commercial properties are down 8%. So ultimately, the 25.3% drop in Portchester clearly has nothing to do with the value of the businesses. And every time the business sells, we get another email from the village trustees of Portchester saying, oh my God, the whole roll is completely nonsense because, and the commercial properties, can we go to the next slide now, please? 8%. Now, I mean, again, one thing is, I mean, I don't know, I think the rest of the, I certainly take pride, and I think this whole board takes pride. We've worked very hard over 7 years to improve assessments. Every day we've been in office. Every day. Every day we've been in office for 7 years. We inherited a previous assessor, and town assessor Knauer is absolutely fantastic. Now, look what she's discovered. Look what she discovered. And for the people at home, the average home in Portchester at the high in 2008 was $545,000. That sounds about right. Sounds about right. The average value of a home on the 2014 was $433,000, but that's a July 2013, right?
Correct.
There's a lag? Remember, there's a lag. So in July 2013, the average home was $400,000 for a 20% drop. That seems pretty reasonable to me. I was trying to understand why it's down 30%. Why? Because 2-family homes are down 46%. 3-family homes are down 44%. Look at Rye Brook. Rye Brook's no different. 2-family homes are down 36%. 3-family, 31%. Look at Rye Neck. 31% for 2-family homes. 2- and 3-family homes got crushed in this market. So I'd like to invite the village. Tommy, you got the camera on me here? I want it over here. I want it over here. I want the Village of Portchester, you know, to quite frankly, I'd like the Village of Portchester to look at these numbers. The 2-family homes are down 46%. 3-family homes are down 46%, and 39% of the homestead is 39% of the homestead is 2- and 3-family homes. You know, so rather than cast aspersions at our town assessor and create more work for our town assessor, you know, reach out and talk to us, and we'll give you the answer. Thank you. All right, let me go back to
If you could go back to that prior slide, I'd also just like to interject that for the commercial, The values are more flat because it's based on the income approach, whereas the sales are utilized to determine the residential assessments, and those go with the fluctuations in the market.
And there's one other phenomenon here. We didn't want to make it super complicated, but 75–80% of communities in Westchester County are not 100% of value, correct?
Correct.
So if you're a 100% of value community, you're going to have, you can't, if they're not 100% of value, they can't change the value. You're not allowed to change the value. Some bureaucrat in Albany applies the equalization rate that tries to approximate the market change. Here, we're 100% of value. When you go to 100% of value, you are going to be more volatile.
That's right. You're gonna go with the flow downward, but then you're gonna recapture it when it moves upward.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I took the Westchester County statistics from the MLS, and it showed the drop in median home prices over the course of 2007 to 14. And median is used rather than average because they array all the values, and the value that's in the middle is the one they pick because this really smooths out the highs and the lows. So you can see that the values in Portchester followed a similar downward trend, tweaking up, just this year in 14. But overall, these values are running about 26% below the Westchester median home value. And then the 2 to 3 families were, they were running higher for quite a while, and then took a more significant drop in the recent years.
And again, Town Assessor Knauer can't not look at this information. She's required by law and by full value. So this is important to understand. This is market information. This is not Town Assessor Knauer making this information up. This is market information given to us by home sales. So if she tried not to look at this information, she would lose her job.
And the next slide basically does the same thing, same Westchester County information here, but it just as a comparison, I put in the village of Rybrook so that you could see the drop in the median home prices. However, with that drop, the village of Rybrook, pardon the typo there, I thought I got that one, their values are running approximately 22% over the median home value overall, even though they dropped. And that's fine. I don't want to dwell on these too much. Again, just as comparison, Village of Rhinebeck, here's Westchester again, and these are the median values in Rhinebeck. They've spiked this year, but overall they're running about 15% over the Westchester's median sales price. So in conclusion, I do feel that the Town of Rye Assessments Department is following sound practices regarding staffing with the supplemental layers of technology that are being utilized. The Town of Rye Assessment Department is also working diligently to monitor the sales data and to use to value residential properties. And we are also working diligently to value non-homestead properties using the income approach to value, looking at income and expenses for the majority of the parcels. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Any questions from the board?
Well, Assessor Knauer, you've done a great job, and all I can do is support your claims. First on the staffing, and so if you remember some of the early emails, I wanted to make sure that you responded to those specific claims. And using the IAAO standard, we are staffed appropriately. Going back 8 years, the Town of Rye, obviously in keeping with transparency and looking to have the best assessing department, and through the efforts of Supervisor Carvin, contacted the IAAO, brought in, right?
Exactly.
It was a blue ribbon study, and we hit it hard, and we identified all of the inefficiencies, all of the opportunities for improvement, and we made those changes as best we could.
culminating in hiring Denise Knauer. I want to strike on the note of technology updates, and I find that to be very telling. Now, if you did the same thing, if you ran the same office that was being run 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, then you'd say, well, okay, well, maybe we're just doing more of the same. But that's not the case. We revamped the office. Technology is paramount, so we're getting real-time data. We're turning the information around quickly, efficiently, and making sure that we're following these market trends and those values, which are important. So I think technology that you've implemented is very key. The transparency is huge. And then one thing that I'd like to have the Assessor Knauer comment on is the inability to spot review a property and how that affects. I know you didn't touch on that, but I find that to be very, very important.
It is.
That you can't spot review
Absolutely.
a property.
That's right.
Speak to us about the process.
There's actually an opinion of counsel from the New York State Office of Real Property Services that says that changing an assessment on a single property because of a sale alone is unconstitutional, and I could be held personally liable. So I've done that research, and I cannot look at a sale and just increase the assessment to the sales price.
Okay, so the important thing here that we all need to understand is that there is a level of service, a legal level of service that the assessor needs to abide by. And if she didn't do that, she would be held liable, and then we would be screaming and yelling and saying, why are you putting the town in that kind of a situation? So the important thing is that we are operating the town assessing in keeping with law, in keeping with the IAAO standards, but most importantly is that we have a very open door policy when it comes to our departments. So if there is an issue, you reach out to the assessor and we will work through any inconsistencies. Is any process absolutely infallible? No, that's not the case. But we work towards perfection, and that's the most important thing, is we're working towards perfection. So I have nothing else to say, but other than thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Any other questions, comments?
No, I echo that.
I just wanted to thank Town Assessor Knauer. It's probably the worst time of year.
Busiest.
Busiest in terms of the busiest time of year to have to go through this, but I really appreciate it, and I think, I think in doing it, we all learned a lot.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
if nothing else, I have certainly learned a lot more about the
And we
inner
could-
workings of the day-to-day operations.
We could certainly take
just
this-
at that
Yep.
molecular level that, I wasn't really privy to before, but.
We could certainly
Yeah,
take
no.
it further if we have more
I-
time.
It's
It's very complicated.
We don't want to take any more
Right,
of your
Joe? It's
time.
complicated.
Well, thank you so much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
all that hard work. That is very helpful. Okay, wow, okay, so we start with presentations, so we're finally into the meat of the meeting. Approval of the minutes of March 17th. I was not here, so any questions, comments?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I-
Okay, great. Comments from the public. Well, Goldie's gone. Mr. Hubert?
Welcome home.
Thank you, Supervisor Carvin, members of the board. Deputy Supervisor Villanova has said welcome home. So for those in the audience who don't know why he said that, I've been in Southeast Asia for almost 2 months, in Singapore and Thailand. And the audience should know that one of the things I do here every town meeting is to take copious notes and then prepare what I call a media advisory. Going back to my roots as a reporter and television producer, I send out a media advisory to all of the local media that I can find, television outlets, websites, daily newspapers, weekly newspapers like the Westmore News, to fill them in on what's going on in the town. I've done this because I feel that an informed public is the foundation of freedom, part of my creed, but also my belief that this board could not be effective without an informed public who understood what you were doing and could follow what you were doing. And so I would like to just tell you that it felt very disconcerting to come back after 2 months in Southeast Asia to find 3 major stories that happened here in the town of Rye, one of which disappeared beneath the cracks of the media. The 3 major stories, which got some attention, were the superintendent of schools in Blindbrook quitting or being fired. We don't know why. I'd like to know more. We don't. The second, of course, was the election of a new mayor in Portchester, who won on the campaign of not building a new town center, a new center for the civic center for the village. And the third story was, of course, the end of the effort to dissolve Rye Town, which has occupied me enormously for the last 6 or 7 years. Now, I look around the meeting room tonight after having been away for almost 2 months, and there's not a single reporter in sight. I think there may well be one, hopefully, watching this on live TV now that these meetings are being televised locally on cable TV. And if that reporter or an editor is watching tonight, hello, Janan. And I hope you will write this in some depth. I think the public deserves a blow-by-blow report on what happened tonight and what has happened in Rye Town dissolution, and not just from the point of view of the town board or the members of the town board or even the staff, but a thorough investigative report on what happened at the various levels of government that participated in this, namely what happened with, from the point of view of the Mr. Otis and those who represent us in the State Assembly and in the State Senate, what happened in the village of Mamaroneck, the village of Rybrook, and the village of Portchester, and also what happened at the village board. This is not something that it should be in my province, because obviously, having reported on the town, I have a certain affiliation with the town, and I'm not necessarily an objective observer. But I've already appealed to at least one publication to do that story, and I do think it's my responsibility to appeal to others to do more, because I don't think that this very important initiative, which had implications not just for Westchester County, but for all of New York State, a state that has bloated local government. There's no one who doesn't agree that we have local bloated government, but no one can seem to figure out why we can't get rid of that local bloated government statewide. And I think that what's happened here in the town of Rye deserves to be studied by the media. And so I will make it a small commitment, a small effort on my part to get some of that coverage. But I must tell you that I don't think I will be very successful. I'll try. But right now, with staffing down at the print papers, down to bare bones level, New York Times no longer has a Westchester reporter. No major media company in New York has a full-time Westchester reporter. The Wall Street Journal has someone who covers this part of the area, but we're only one little tiny part of that. Locally, we have one new source of news in television, which is FiOS, and one new source of news in digital, which is the Daily Voice. Daily Voice's articles don't exceed more than 300 words, and when they do refer to anything lengthier, they usually link to some other publication's lengthier report, one way or the other, which is not exactly a satisfactory way of covering an issue that's as complex as this. So I will try, but I do think that for the benefit of the voters of this town and for the benefit of the historical record, that there needs to be a really thorough, in-depth understanding of what happened. And Supervisor Carvin, I'm glad you made a beginning tonight, but I think as we all have to understand, that's a beginning from the point of view of your point of view and perhaps members of this board, but something far more needs to be done. This was too important an initiative. Too much effort went into it over a period of 7 years for it to die a quiet death and to slowly walk away from center stage. So that's my hope, and I'll do my best to see that someone does do this, but I can't promise it. So greetings from Southeast Asia. I will tell you that Singapore is a dictatorship, but a model of efficient government, probably one of the most efficient city governments in the world. The average income per household is $55,000, and the Singapore government has long made one of its core policies that every citizen in Singapore own their own dwelling. And Ms. Knauer, you'd be interested in this. 95% of every of the population of Singapore owns their own dwelling. And public housing in Singapore is apportioned on the basis of ethnicity and race, so that there is no one religious or ethnic group that has a hold on a particular apartment block. It is made for a very stable society. So we have a lot to learn from Singapore, and some of the lessons that I've learned I hope to share with my fellow citizens here in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hubert. I think Mr. Hubert hit on the solution. I think if we could turn Rye-Town into a dictatorship, we could, thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Hubert. Anybody else? Okay. We'll go to Resolution B. Bishop? How much are the American Legion looking for?
Okay, hang on a second.
1,500?
I think it's $1,500.
All right. Any questions, comments from the board?
I'd like to make a motion, we provide American Legion with $1,500.
Wonderful. You get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Hope, just quickly call the roll.
Yes, Collins, Nardi,
Yeah.
Nioras. Yes. Villanova.
Yes.
Carvin.
Yep. Municipalities for comprehensive cleanup, but this is,
You want to address, there's another,
oh, did I miss something?
with this American Legion, they're also asking for the 1,500.
Yeah, I was a little-
for that. Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
how much do they want? I thought they wanted
The
1,500.
way it read was a little
Yeah,
bit
attached is the
confusing.
request.
Cause see the final paragraph, how it says, also we're requesting, but because it's the same amount, I think we skipped over it.
What's the line item, what is
Yeah.
this,
I also enclosed a copy of the budget, the line item.
We have a line item, is 6510-0477, is for the support of the American Legion itself. And then we have the line item of 7550-0445, which is actually a contribution toward the Memorial Day Parade.
Well, how much, how much did we give last year?
Collectively, we gave them $3,000 last year.
How much did we give the?
And we
Hope?
also did
How
the
much did we
flags
give
on
Hope?
our own, or no?
Yeah, the flags we do on our own.
Did we give Hope 2,000?
yeah.
Let's get, if you want to take it up to 2, I don't want to take it to 3,000. I mean, unless somebody else wants to do it, but.
Well, we're talking, can I see that?
Yes.
Second, please, I'm sorry.
Budget's one thing,
Well, no, these are two separate items, right? So we have $1,500, which is part of the Memorial Day Parade.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's
the
line
contribution to the memorial. That's very similar to what you just did for the
Right.
4th of July celebration.
Correct, so that's a
Right.
celebration. And then it's $1,500 supporting the American Legion. Is that right? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes,
And
that's
that
correct.
$1,500 towards the American Legion was originally earmarked for their efforts at the cemeteries and
Right,
veterans.
they do the
And that's-
8 different memorials.
It's the memorial support,
Right.
cemetery support, all of those items. So those are they're two very separate, but also two very valid. So it's not that, this is, so that being said, I'd like to
Yeah, I think we should match what we did last year.
adjust my motion and make a motion to provide the $3,000 for the American Legion. But in the record, Hope, I would want to have that identify. The resolution could have been written a little bit better to identify what we are giving. So if we could just make that clear, because I honestly,
Yeah.
I
Well,
did
have
not.
the line items
Yeah, no,
for the
without
budget. I
that,
really
forget
don't-
about it. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah, and
So we have a motion for $3,000. Can I get a second?
Correct.
second.
Okay, so Hope call the roll.
yes, Collins,
Yes.
Nardi,
Yes.
Nioras.
As
Villanova.
adjusted, so you
As-
will
oh,
adjust
as
the
it.
resolution, right?
Well,
Make
the
it
resolution
2,500,
includes
maybe.
both of it, yeah.
It just looked to me like the resolution included the Memorial Day ceremonies.
It does. It includes the Memorial Day ceremonies
But
and
they're
the
asking
support.
for Memorial Day
And the
ceremonies
budget for
as
the
well as
organization.
ceremonies at
For
the
their
Veterans
organization.
Memorial Park, Marina, war memorials, et cetera.
Correct.
Right.
So it's
We can
one.
change,
So-
we can change that wording.
Right,
Change
right,
that
yeah,
wording.
correct,
Okay.
yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
And also, they sent,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
So it'll be,
Yeah.
the parade will be on
Itinerary
Monday,
for the
May
day,
25th,
right.
and the day will kick off at 8:45 a.m. So May 25th, everyone.
So yes, as amended.
Okay, thank you. Going over
Yes.
this, it is, okay.
Carvin, yep. Okay, is this your resolution, C?
Yes, so this Resolution C is asking that we support the Westchester Putnam Association of Town Supervisors has been approached by several organizations, including Clearwater and Riverkeeper. These are nonprofit sustainability organizations in the Westchester Putnam region, and they are seeking support of their efforts to essentially ask GE to dredge the designated areas of PCB contaminated sediments in particular river sections, conduct any additional necessary removal of soils and sediments in PCB contaminated hotspots in and around the upper Hudson River, and do a thorough analysis and robust cleanup of the Hudson River, including the floodplains and the Old Champlain Channel, in order to restore the river to its full health and value as a natural and economic resource. So they're essentially asking us to support this initiative for them to continue their efforts in leaning on GE to restore this pollution that's taken place. So if you view the secondary page, you'll see the towns that have moved in favor, including Bedford, Greenberg, Harrison, Lewisboro, Mamaroneck, Mount Pleasant, North Castle, North Salem, Ossining, Pound Ridge, Somers, and Yorktown. And I would like to ask that we join this list in supporting this initiative.
So moved.
And what does our support?
Just a voice.
It's just
Just a
support.
voice.
It's,
Because I thought GE was already fined and spent billions cleaning up the Hudson River.
yeah, I mean, they're looking for this comprehensive study to be done and to continue to further restore the Hudson River.
But this is part of something else, though, am I right? River Keepers?
It's one of the organizations who
All right,
has
so-
its, agenda, and these are the several organizations that have approached the Westchester Putnam Association of Town Supervisors looking for
Right.
support in their initiative to continue to restore the Hudson River.
So ultimately, River Keepers can say that they have all the support from the towns, and they can apply for grants and all of this stuff. So, is it important? Absolutely. We need to take the opportunity to get behind the right initiatives.
Sure.
And I think that's the reason why this has been brought to us. Am I right?
Yes. It's not for any one specific thing at this point. It's to continue this, this exploration of the cleanup.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, Pope, call the roll.
Collins?
Yes.
Nardi?
Yes.
Nioras?
We're going to abstain.
Oh, yeah, okay. And Villanova?
Yes.
Carvin?
Yes. Okay, D, Gar Associates. Now, here's a perfect example tonight, Town Assessor Knauer. You're coming to us for $24,500, which is fantastic. And would you explain a little bit about what GAR is going to be doing for you, how
well-
they're supporting you, and how they're supporting our 4.5?
Right, and basically, this money has been budgeted, that's good news, and it's a continuation of what GAR started last year, looking at some of the neighborhoods, the residential neighborhoods, doing the modeling, identifying some inventory issues so we can clean them up, and basically acting as a part-time real property appraiser, in essence.
And by the way, just explain about Guard. They just did the town of Mamaroneck reval, correct?
That is correct.
They're one of the top firms in this field, correct?
That is correct.
And you're using them to bring a lot of the work in-house as well, correct?
Right. And, down the road, if we can move away from using Vision and become independent with RPS, that's our ultimate goal.
Fantastic. Any other questions for your attorney?
Well, just speaking to Gar Associates in the town of Mamaroneck, I mean, we have a great example where it's good to have continuity. So we have the village of Mamaroneck that lies both in the town of Rye and in the town of Mamaroneck. We know that the assessing department is working very closely with the village of Mamaroneck, and I guess maybe next month we can get an update on how we are, maybe next month, maybe 2 months, where we are with that data transfer and updates for the values for the village of Mamaroneck. But to cut to the chase, it's important that we work with like entities, and I think it's a great opportunity that we're working with GAR and that the town of Mamaroneck is working with GAR, and I'm sure that also translates into maybe some peace of mind for the village of Mamaroneck as well.
Right, and the town of Mamaroneck is independently using RPS to do their valuation, the state assessment database.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, can I get a motion to approve GAR Associates?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Hope, call the roll.
Collins? Yes. Nardi?
Yes.
Nioras?
Yes.
Villanova?
Yes.
Carvin?
Yes. Okay, E.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Town Assessor Knauer. Board of Assessment Review. Now, this is a Portchester appointee, correct, Bishop?
Yes,
So basically, they tell us who they want?
more or less, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments?
No, this is in keeping with prior history, and quite simply, just as you mentioned, that this is a Portchester appointment. It's good to have representation from the communities, by the municipalities, and I think that this is in keeping with transparency. The one thing that we did identify during this process this time is that there may be some wording that can be updated in the process, probably between the town attorney and the village attorney, to make sure that it works properly. It's working properly on paper and the way that we administer it, but I think it should work a little bit better. So quite simply, the Village of Portchester provides a resolution on who they'd like on the Board of Assessment Review, and because that person serves on the Town of Rye Board, then we have our resolution supporting that appointment. That being said, I think it's appropriate to read the resolution, Hope?
Okay, yes. Now, I did enclose a copy of the resolution that was adopted by the Village of Portchester as well. So.
Yep, just you go ahead and let's read ours. That's perfect.
Okay. Resolved that Raymond Skolke.
If you could just get to the microphone, I'll bring it closer to you. It's okay.
Resolved that Raymond Skolke, residing at 111 Perry Avenue, Portchester, New York, be and he is hereby appointed a member of the Town of Rye Board of Assessment Review for a 5-year term effective immediately and expiring September 30th, 2019, subject to approval of the New York State Office of Real Property Services and the satisfactory completion of any training requirements at an annual compensation of $2,500, and be it further resolved that the town clerk shall cause the said Raymond Skolke to take and file the necessary oath of office forthwith.
Wonderful. Can I get a motion to approve Raymond Skolke as the newest member of the Board of Assessment Review?
So moved.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Hope, call the roll.
Collins? Nardi?
Yes.
Nioras? Villanova?
Yes.
Carvin?
Yes.
Okay, so Hope, you're going to I'm sorry, Supervisor Carvin. You'll contact Raymond to make sure he does the oath of office,
Yes,
and then through the assessing department, you'll make sure that Mr. Skolke is properly trained?
Yes, he'll do that through the tax commissioner, through the county. She's already contacted us.
Very good.
Excellent. Did you have anything else to say tonight, Town Assessor Knauer?
Actually, I have two things.
Okay.
One, the deadline for filing renewals for the seniors is May 1st. That's a hard, fast deadline. So it's quickly approaching, so you have to get your renewals in. And anybody else
Renewals, what's a renewal?
for the aged all exemption, the senior citizen exemption, the enhanced star, and anybody who is buying a house needs a new exemption. All the new exemptions have to be in by May 1st. And the second thing is, I just want to say another one bites the dust. We have a small tax cert in the village of Mamaroneck, and it's a four-family, and the attorney was basically willing to let the most recent years go, but I also worked on him on the other 3 years, and he has dismissed the case.
Wonderful.
Very
Great
good.
work. Excellent. Good night, very good evening for you, Town Assessor Knauer.
Thank you.
Mr. Burns? Excellent. Good work on those financial reports. Honorable Mr. Mecca? Honorable Receiver of Taxes, Mecca?
Good evening, Mr. Carvin, Honorable Mr. Carvin, members of the Town Council, Nicholas Mecca, 45 Alto, Portchester. Just want to remind everybody, as the assessor says, our deadline's coming close too. The county tax, if you're responsible for paying your own tax, is due next Thursday. It must be postmarked that day or come in the office personally and make the payment. Otherwise, there's a 2% penalty after that, okay?
Thank
Any
you so much.
questions? We're pretty well, collections are coming in, but we still have to pick up the pace a little bit.
Is that right?
Yes.
Maybe you got to get on Mr. Noto there, see if we can, we'll hear from him in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mecca. Hope?
I have no comment.
No comment? We have your report. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Noto, what about these collections?
Class of
project?
14 in REMS, we did our motion for summary judgment that was returnable on the 17th, so we should get a decision within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I think there's really only one property I think we'll actually take title to, and so it's actually, we've had a pretty good rate on this year's class. They've paid quite a bit. So we're in pretty good shape, and as I said, we've sold 2 of our 3 from the class of 13, and we're still working on 1, which I'll update you with an email when I get more information from the former owner.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. And what's the value of the property you expect to take? More or less?
Don't know.
Okay.
It's probably in the range of 500,000, I think.
Okay, great.
I have to send Bishop out there. He's my muscle. They don't respond to me, but when Bishop shows up at their door, for some reason, I get a phone call. So I appreciate Bishop can do that.
There you go. That'll scare them. Crawford Park, Bishop, anything?
No, I don't think there's anything to report on. I think the capital plan was quite enough.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, we should mention maybe, give Mr. Nowotny kudos. We just got our Rye Town Park financials this year, and we broke even.
Woo-hoo.
We actually had a loss of $281, but Mr. Nowotny has offered to pay that, so we can now
So we can claim.
So 200 million is break even, which is quite nice. So well done, Mr. Nowotny. And Park Manager Geoffrey and the rest of his team. Mr. DiCrescenzo sends his regrets.
He submitted his report.
He submitted his report. Any questions on the report?
No.
Mr. DiCrescenzo, yes. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry he's not here. But Mr. Nowotny, if you could find out when we can get a reconciliation of the finances for that project.
Oh, for the Jefferson Avenue Bridge project?
Yes.
Yes.
Project's done. We need to close that out. I feel we need to close that out.
We could easily get that to the entire board. I can tell you quickly that all of the monies have been paid to the Village of Mamaroneck, and we are actually awaiting a credit of about $106,000, which was the result of the various utility companies. We needed to relocate a lot of utilities. The cost was in the project, and the utilities are paying it. So as soon as Mamaroneck receives our check, they will then reimburse us our portion of those utility reimbursements.
Very good.
Thank you very
But I'll
much.
get you a complete accounting of all the payments and the totals.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nowotny. Councilwoman Collins.
No comment.
Councilman Nardi.
No comment.
Councilman Nioras.
No comment.
Deputy Supervisor Villanova.
All right, so I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, but
Tommy, what's going on here?
But I have to make comment, and really, like I mentioned before, it's not easy to go alone on something,
Sorry.
All right, it's not easy to go alone on something, and Supervisor Carvin certainly did that multiple times. And even though there were a lot of people on a steering committee for dissolution, Joe Carvin, Supervisor Carvin, really put tremendous effort into it. And it's something that he believed in, and we didn't always agree, but we agreed to disagree. And I think that shows the value of the town board, that we could communicate that way and continue to get things done and stay on top of it going forward. And Supervisor Carvin also made comment before about the Town of Rye employees working through all of this. And it just shows the professionalism and the focus and the positive attitude at which they come to work every day, because we would not be able to have the discussion about dissolution in March, and then have our meeting in April and be ready to go into a $300,000 plus capital expense program at Crawford Park if we weren't firing on all pistons every day, ready for that next step. So I think that's it's obviously it's a big it's attributed to the entire staff and really the way that the town of Rye operates. And Assessor Knauer, there's a lot that you do every day, but to pull together this report and respond in the fashion that we did, there's nothing that can combat the facts. A question better than the facts, and we provided those facts, and you're a class act, and I think you're doing a great job for the town of Rye. I know that we're all very proud of you on the board, and I think that that's important that you have that you support as well. So, other than that, I've never been more proud of the town of Rye than I am now. Every year, it just keeps getting better, and when I look back on the past 10 years and to see where we were, lack of transparency, so on and so forth, to where we are today, it's a much different town. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. Thank you for your very kind comments. I pretty much said everything I wanted to say about town dissolution. I think everybody's heard enough from me on town dissolution for probably the next decade. So I think that we'll start to look forward. But thank you for those very, very, very kind comments. Mr. Arcaro, we should have had this in the body of the work tonight. We should have had this as a proper resolution. What is the timing on this? This is the summer internship program. Maybe I'll present it quickly. There's a budget item. Maybe I'll just. Well, do you want to go ahead and present it? Go ahead.
Just wanted to brief the council. Each year for the past 3 years, we've had the summer internship program funded in the budget under the youth programs. Previously, there was a funding for the tools program, the democracy, but thankfully that has been picked up by the county and others, so we don't have to fund that at the town. So this would be the fourth reiteration of the summer internship program, providing approximately 10 youth with an opportunity to have the first week is job readiness training, and the next 5 weeks is working in the community. Along the lines with change, in the beginning, the town paid for the entire hourly stipend. Now the settings, the employers, some are private, some are nonprofit. They're paying half. So I'd like to present that to you. Beginning in July and end in August.
When do we have to have it? Can you present this in May, or is that too late?
Could present it in May, yes.
All right, if you can, I think if we're going to present it in May, and I'll give you some guidance on this, I'd like to cap it at $3,000.
Okay.
And, the other private companies will have to pick it up. But if we can do it in May, I'd prefer to do that because the board hasn't had a chance to look at it It's been a long evening, but would you just get it on the agenda for a proper resolution? I'll work with you on it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arcaro.
The only question I have is that the current, what's the current minimum wage?
$8.75.
And that's
Because it's an internship program, we're not bound by that. It's a stipend, not a minimum wage issue.
right, okay.
It's to help offset the expense of travel and,
Right. But be happy to come back next
Great.
next month.
So I just did want to comment. Actually, I have to say, tonight was I thought, a particularly good town meeting. I thought it was really nice to see how everyone's contributing between, Councilman Nioras and Nardi on the capital expenditure, Councilwoman Collins on the sustainability effort, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. If he pulls that rabbit out of his head, it'll be fantastic. $6 million or thereabouts for the middle school fields that are very much needed. So, I think I agree with you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. We're hitting on all cylinders, full steam ahead, and let's have another wonderful 8 months. With that, can I get a motion to bring the meeting to a close?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Very good.